Hello, my name's Abby and I am co-director and strategic lead for both Glasgow Community Food Network and Propagate. This is my whistle-stop journey into the food system, greenhouse gas emissions, environment, biodiversity and health. So, an overview of some of the problems within our global food system. What percentage of crops are UK farmers forced to waste annually? 10 to 16%. How many times faster are we losing topsoil than it is being formed? 100 times. How much food is wasted before it even reaches our plates? 30%. The junk food industry spends how many more times promoting products than the government spends on healthy eating? 30 times. And the global food system accounts for what percentage of greenhouse gas emissions? 32%. So roughly 1/3 of all greenhouse gas emissions globally come from a mixture of production, processing, transport, packaging and waste. In Glasgow, our food system is complex, just like our global food system. We have some serious issues, such as 1 in 3 children living in poverty and 11% of people experiencing food insecurity. We also clearly don't have enough people eating enough fruit and vegetables per day. However, we do have around 90 community gardens and lots of allotments, and my colleague Sandy Patterson will no doubt give you some ideas into actions to increase both community gardens and allotments. All the science currently tells us that we should be eating a plate that looks a bit like this to ensure planetary health, increased biodiversity, but also human health. So the vast majority of our food sources should be plant-based, with just a very small amount here coming from dairy and animal sources. In Scotland, we produce mostly lamb, beef and dairy. We have around 459,000 hectares producing cereals and oilseeds, and around 18,000 hectares producing vegetables. 1 hectare is roughly the size of 1 rugby pitch. The vast majority of this 459,000 hectares of cereals is actually barley, and most of that is either for the whisky industry or for animal feed. So if we want to shift to a more plant-based diet, we currently aren't producing that in Scotland. So solutions. The Glasgow City Food Plan was recently signed off back in May. It's a huge 76-point action plan that involved around 80 organisations and 600 people in creating it. It took around about 2 years. It covers extensive actions to do with food procurement, that is increasing the amount of locally sourced and sustainably produced food on school plates. Actions to address food poverty and food insecurity by ensuring that everybody has equal access to affordable, good, healthy food. And actions to increase urban agriculture. Urban agriculture can be market gardening. So I've got 2 examples here of current market gardens in the city. One is in Parkhead, that's the Wash House Garden, where the small team provides fruit and vegetables to around 30 veg box customers each week at affordable prices. And they also supply cafes and restaurants. Meanwhile, Glasgow Greens is based on Argyle Street. They've just taken on 36,000 square foot of space underneath what was the Arches. They are planning to set up an indoor vertical farm, and their long-term vision is to provide enough leafy greens to supply all the schools across the city. So we can use our vacant and derelict land around the city to increase food production, and we can also use our empty spaces. Nationally, we need a shift towards more regenerative forms of agriculture. This means farmers being paid through the farm payment systems, that is, the subsidy systems provided by the Scottish Government, to help with the transition towards more diverse forms of farming, increased plant-based foods, better ecosystem services, increased biodiversity, and better health all round. As citizens, we need to be shifting to a more plant-based diet. Now, we've seen that's difficult because most of the food that we're producing in Scotland is currently not plant-based. However, it is out there, we can seek it out, and if we demand it, then it has to be produced. We can see from the investment bank UBS's independent research that more people are interested in plant-based diets, and certainly the number of vegans is definitely growing. So what does a citizen's food plate look like? Well, I borrowed this slide from Sustainable Food Places, who are a national organisation that I work very closely with. And this is the sort of plate that we want to be aiming for. And this will take citizen action, it will take local authority action, and it will take national action, as well as actions globally by governments working together. We need our plates to have more seasonal food. We need our plates to be sourced locally, helping to support social enterprises. We can have meat, but it should be less and better meat, sustainably sourced meat, sustainably sourced dairy. Ideally, less processed food and more fresh prepared food. Lots more plant proteins, and we can grow that in Scotland. We can produce peas and beans. I'm a market gardener with another hat on, and I know that we can do this. And lastly, we need to look at reducing food waste. That's both through our own personal plates, but also across the food system. So, actions at multiple levels. All of this is possible, and it takes lots of recommendation, and hopefully your recommendations will help us on that journey in Glasgow. Thank you.